Today, I want to share with you a story, an experience of mine, a message of ultimate freedom, a message that will help you come into the fullness of who you really are, a powerful, conscious creator, a divine spark of source, God, creator, all that is, a soul not separate from that of the divine, on creative source's journey into physicality, loved and supported more than you can ever imagine by the divine that is you. Today's message will show how you have ultimate say over everything you experience on this divine journey of self-discovery. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time. My name's Jason, and I make videos to help you discover the power within to create the love, life, abundance, joy, well-being, and freedom you truly deserve. If you like content like that, please consider hitting the subscribe button down below and the notification bell so you can be notified of new videos coming out. If you've been following me for the last couple weeks, you'll know that I just currently got back from Greece. Greece has a very special place in my heart. 6 years ago, back in 2015, I visited Greece for the first time. I traveled through this beautiful country by myself for about 2 weeks, and on my journey, I learned the most important lesson I've had in the entire years of my life up until now. Because I was just in Greece again, I'm particularly reminded of my deeply awakening experience that I had there. And this message will change the way you see your life and change the way you approach everything in your life. So please watch this video until the end. If you've been watching my videos, you know I never ask anyone to watch until the end, but I'm asking now because I know the story has the capacity to affect you profoundly, and I want you to reap the benefits from my experience without having to go through something similar. In July of 2015, I booked a solo trip to Italy and Greece. My plans were to go to Venice, Italy for a few days because I always wanted to go there, and then meet up with a friend in Rome for a few days, and after, go to Greece for 2 weeks. I decided to book an alternative vacation with Skiros Holidays for a week on a small remote island called Skiros, where there's tiny horses and more goats than people. It seemed like the perfect place for me to be on a solo soul journey. The holiday was booked through a company that offered a week-long alternative retreat type package with other people, which included activities like music composition, yoga, meditation, and other artistic and spiritual outlets. I was really excited when I booked my vacation, but not long after I booked, I began doing some research on how I would get there, and I realized that I was going to have to fly on a smaller type propeller airplane. I never liked flying, and in the past, I would always look up ratings on airlines before booking flights to see what their track record was for accidents, etc. So when I found out I would have to fly on a smaller airplane with propellers, I mean, it actually wasn't that small, but my mind started to go places that it shouldn't have. My first fear was that the airplane would obviously crash and I would die. I entertained this fear for about a week before I came to the logical thought that since I wasn't the only one that would be on the plane, that a plane crash would probably not happen because it involved other people, and this was my own karma that we were dealing with. So my next thought was that possibly a scooter accident could happen. This seemed like a very likely scenario because I like renting scooters on my trips for the fun and convenience of getting around to see things on my own. And my mind went directly to a memory of a friend's dad who ended up dying on vacation almost 15 years ago. And I thought, well, bad things can and do happen on vacation. He didn't die in a scooter accident, but either way, I felt like, oh, well, bad things happen on vacation. Up until then, vacation was always a getaway for me, something that I looked forward to with lots of joy and anticipation, but this time I had different feelings. The seed of fear was planted in my mind, and for the 2 months leading up to my trip, I had some serious questions. Well, at least one serious question, which was, does law of attraction work for death? I'd already had 4 years of law of attraction experience at the time. I had somewhat healed my tooth, enough to know that I affected the healing in it through meditation. I had healed some of my excruciatingly painful and scary symptoms of chronic back pain from skating and biking accidents. I'd grown a bit taller, I'd manifested a successful business, I'd manifested money multiple times and lots of other things, but I had this burning question regarding death. I knew that I was the creator of my reality, but was death something I created as well? If death was something that was predestined, is that something that we even had a choice in? These were the questions that went through my mind. The emotional discomfort I felt wasn't that strong, but it could be described as a consistent low-level feeling of unease over the period of 2 months. I would think about it on and off throughout the day, and all the way up until my departure date, I had this question. So continuously asking, do I have control over death? A few weeks after this anxiety regarding my trip began, I get an email from Skiros Holidays, the company I booked my Greece vacation with, asking me if I had travel insurance. The fear immediately intensified after getting that email. I thought, well, is this a sign from the universe that something bad was going to happen? I'd never been asked about travel insurance and never cared for it or even thought about it over the last 5 years of traveling. Much of it was on my own. And then all of a sudden, someone asked me about travel insurance. It seemed very odd to me. So I had the intuitive thought that my fears were beginning to manifest, but the uncertainty that I could control my own time of death through my focus was so strong and overshadowed any kind of intuition I had. The fear clouded everything. I even wrote back to the nice lady and asked her why I would need travel insurance and asked if the island was dangerous. She must have thought I was weird or crazy, but she did indulge me, and she told me that there was no hospital on the island and that emergency cases required an airlift to Athens, which was $50,000. So later I found out that my regular health insurance does include travel insurance, so that put my mind at ease. But the anxiety continued all the way up until I left for my trip. I still had some anxiety about flying on the smaller plane. I had even imagined a scenario where as the plane was going down, I would start meditating and surrender to the situation and accept my death, which would result in a turn of events where the captain would regain control of the plane and take it to safety. On the day of my flight out of Los Angeles, a praying mantis landed on the side view mirror of my car, which I found really odd. I've probably seen about 4 praying mantises up close and personal in my entire life, and then one just happens to land on my car. Well, I didn't even know that praying mantises existed in my neighborhood. I'd never seen one in my neighborhood before. So I took this as a sign from the universe, and I even looked up the symbolism of praying mantises and found that it symbolized the universe, and I took it as the universe telling me that everything would be okay. So I felt at ease, and I hopped on my plane to Venice. My first week in Italy went fine, and I soon found myself in Greece about to board the plane I was so frightened of. And my anxieties about the flying had subsided a lot, and I boarded the plane with 25 or so other people, and we landed safely in Skiros, Greece. But even though my anxiety regarding flying was pretty much gone, a new thought began to brew as I thought about renting a scooter. I've ridden scooters a good number of times throughout my travels before this, and I've always had a great time, always had safe rides, but the thought that I planted 2 months ago that bad things do happen on vacations and maybe it could be a scooter accident started to rear its ugly head. So not soon after that, after those thoughts started to appear, I heard one of the coordinators mention to other guests that there were cars and bikes for rent and also scooters, and he specifically mentioned that he didn't like bringing up scooter rentals because scooters were very dangerous, but if anyone really wanted a scooter, that they were available as well. So even though I thought it was weird for him to mention the dangers of riding a scooter, I proceeded to rent one anyways. Even the scooter rental guy told me to make sure I rode safely, and no one's ever told me that before. So I've rented scooters a good number of times before and after this incident, and no one's ever said anything about riding safely. So in hindsight, these were all signs that I was out of alignment and I was in the process of attracting something I did not want. These were signs that I shouldn't have rented a scooter, not because they were dangerous, but because I believed something bad might happen and didn't know how to focus my thoughts somewhere else. So I even had some really vivid and real visions of me crashing the scooter and scraping my face on the road twice, both resulting in an uncontrollable shudder of fear and goosebumps. And I had that vision, but I still proceeded to rent the scooter. But as soon as I got the scooter, the fun of riding the scooter overtook my anxieties, and the thrill of being on the open road on a motorbike, smelling the sea and the air immediately disarmed those thoughts. So I did ride through the whole island. I took the ride around the entire island, which takes about an hour and a half, and I rode the scooter for 4 days and had tons of fun. On the very last day of my stay, the rental guy came to get the scooter back, and I was ready to go off to the next island of Alanisos, where I had imagined swimming in the beautiful blue waters. So I was super excited. The taxi came to get my luggage because I couldn't hold the luggage on my scooter, and he told me to follow him to the rental office to drop off the bike. And so he said that if I couldn't keep up with him, to just meet him at the rental office. So I gave all my new friends long hugs and said bye and hopped on my scooter for the very last time. And the taxi drove off pretty quickly, and since I was filled with excitement and eagerness to continue on with my adventure, I forgot to pay attention to how fast I was going. And when the taxi began to pull away, I increased my speed and completely forgot about the twists and turns coming up until I saw a turn ahead. And I immediately realized I was going way too fast, and I attempted to brake hard and had to bring the bike down. I ended up sliding for a good 10 or 15 feet and scraped the entire left side of my body from my ankle up to my face. I still have a scar up here. And since there are barely any people living on this island, there were no cars and no one to help me. So I could see the taxi off in the distance, continue to drive off. He didn't see me. And so I got up as quickly as I could with blood dripping down my face and hopped on the scooter again to ride 5 minutes back up to where I just left from. Immediately when I pulled up, one of the coordinators gasped and hurried to help me. And he helped me clean up my face. And then I jumped into one of the outdoor showers. And in the shower, I immediately and intuitively went into a deep meditation as I felt the water fall all over me. And as I stood underneath the water, I started to feel a sense of self-pity and resentment as to why this happened, because I thought I'd shaken off all of my fears about riding a scooter, and a part of me was wondering, well, how could this all have happened? But as soon as I caught that, probably within a minute or so, I decided to let it all go and just felt the water. And then strangely, I found myself thanking the universe. I remember saying, "Thank you, universe, for this. Whatever it is, I know it's for a good reason, and I accept it as if I'd chosen it myself." And I dropped all the self-pity and complaining and just kept saying, "Thank you, universe. Thank you for this. Thank you." And almost immediately when I did this, I felt this overwhelming sense of peace. And the best way to describe it is the feeling of love. I felt this unconditional love for myself, for what happened, and I felt blessed. I kept holding this feeling through my entire shower, which lasted about 30 minutes or 45 minutes, and I was amazed that I wasn't in any kind of shock or delirium. When I got out of the shower, the coordinator suggested that I go to the clinic, and like I mentioned earlier, they didn't have a hospital on the island, so they did have a clinic. But I asked him to let me meditate for a while longer before taking me, and he agreed. So I meditated for about another hour, and then we hopped in the car and went to the clinic. I meditated the entire time during the extremely bumpy and windy ride to the city center with my eyes closed. And at the clinic, they gave me 2 or 3 stitches on my forehead, right up here, and bandaged up my arm. I still have scars on my arm from this as well. Cleaned up my leg, and the pain didn't start kicking in until that evening after my euphoria from the meditation had worn off. But then by then, I was already tired and I was ready to go to bed. But I did end up staying on that island an extra 5 days, got a hotel by the beach, and meditated about 3 or 4 hours every single day. And because I meditated so much, my wounds scabbed up really quickly, and as well as the bruising on my face. But by the end of the 5 days, I was ready to go back to Athens, still bandaged up, looking like I was in a bar fight. I toured the Acropolis and went off to the monasteries up north in Meteora and continued my trip. So basically, the scooter accident and near-death experience I was afraid of manifested almost exactly to the T. But this isn't the end of my story. So let's go 3 days back before my scooter accident. One of the coordinators at the same place I was staying at had warned us about centipedes. He told us to look out for them because they were poisonous, and if they were to bite you, an allergic reaction might develop. So lucky me, on the second day, I spotted a centipede crawling around my room. I don't usually kill bugs, so when I saw it, I didn't do anything. I was too lazy to get it out of my room. I just figured it would leave on its own. And so that night when I came back, I kind of briefly looked around the room and couldn't find it anywhere. I was a bit concerned, but I decided to go to bed anyways. But as I was laying in bed, anxiety kicked in, and I literally laid in bed with the lights off for 2 hours, not able to sleep because I kept imagining the centipede crawling near my bed, scaling the blankets, getting onto the bed, and biting me. And I don't know why I didn't do anything like get up and turn on the lights and really do an intensive search, but I just laid there, and eventually after 2 hours I did manage to fall asleep. But the crazy thing is, the next morning when I woke up, I found a dead baby centipede on the empty bed next to me. And I remember thinking to myself that this was a sign that my thoughts and feelings the night before were strong enough to semi-manifest my thoughts into reality, but I didn't think any more of it. Now, let's flash forward to 1 week after my scooter accident. I'd already been to Athens, to the Acropolis, and I was up in northern Greece in the beautiful countryside town of Kalimbaka, nestled at the foothills of the gorgeous and unique cliffside mountains where the monasteries of Meteora are located. There were lots of trees, and during my hike up to the monasteries from the bottom, I got bit up by mosquitoes. And I had a couple really big ones on my arms, like near my elbow, the joint. And I had no self-control, and I kept itching them. And one of them started getting really, really big and swollen, and my right arm started feeling a little bit numb. But I didn't think anything of it. On the last night in Kalimbaka, I went to bed a little earlier than usual, around 11 p.m. I didn't expect to get too much sleep because I had a 5 a.m. train to catch back to Athens the next morning. Around 1 a.m., I suddenly wake up because my heart was pounding. It was literally beating like I had just sprinted up and down the stairs like a bunch of times. And my arms felt really, really numb, and I could also feel pain developing in both of my arms. I also felt really hot, and I knew I was developing a fever. I immediately started to freak out and was really tempted to call the woman at the front desk, but didn't want to disturb her because it was a family-owned bed and breakfast, and I was sure she was sleeping. So I decided instead to down a liter of water and then lay down to meditate. Lots of things were flashing through my mind. I was for sure positive that there was no way I could get on a 5-hour train ride like this. I was almost sure that I had some mosquito-borne illness like malaria or dengue fever, yellow fever, Zika virus was going around at the time, and I was almost certain that I was gonna die. But I managed to quiet my mind and ended up meditating for 3 hours straight. In the beginning of my meditation, I felt so scared and alone, and I literally thought that this was it. As I got deeper into my meditation, I started to calm down, and then I accepted my situation fully and surrendered to the possibility that I was going to die. And I spoke to the universe and told the universe that if I was supposed to die, that it was okay, I didn't have a choice, and I told the universe that in its grand plan somewhere that my death would be of some benefit. Immediately when I did this, I felt the most profound peace I've ever felt in my entire life. And pretty much right after that, I felt the most love I've ever felt in my entire life. And as I felt cradled by this universal divine love, I came to the realization that I could get myself out of this situation, that the universe didn't want me to die, that I had a choice in the matter, and so for the next 2 hours and 45 minutes, I imagined myself completely healed while feeling this beautiful love. Within the first hour of meditation, I could feel a difference in my arms. Some of the pain was subsiding, and it wasn't super noticeable, but it was noticeable. And by the end of 3 hours, I was 70% better, and when 5 a.m. rolled around, I found myself on the train back to Athens. I remember thinking to myself that Greece didn't want me to go home, that it wanted to keep me. I had 2 near-death experiences within 2 weeks of each other. It wasn't until almost 2 or 3 weeks after I'd gotten back home that I realized the profundity of my experience. And this usually happens when bad things manifest because you're so pulled into the physical situation, it's hard to gain clarity and see the situation for what it really is. Those of you who are watching this video are probably already putting the puzzle pieces together. Before I left for Greece, I continuously asked the question for nearly 2 months whether I had control over death, if death was a predestined experience, or if my thoughts attracted that to me as well. My fears of death, and especially a scooter accident, ended up manifesting. My fears of getting bitten by an insect, specifically a centipede, manifested in my experience but with mosquitoes. I had a second brush with death with my mosquito experience, and not only that, my vision that I had of surrendering to death while being on an airplane that was going down and meditating to save the plane from crashing manifested almost entirely in my mosquito bite incident, except it wasn't a plane that I felt was going to kill me, but mosquito-borne illnesses. But I did surrender to the possibility of death, and I did meditate, and I did change the outcome. And the very last beautiful piece to this puzzle is that before every trip I go on, I used to make a manifestation list on my computer and write down a list of things I wanted to experience on my trip. Things like a safe flight, good rest, more money, friendly encounters. But this time I wrote something which in retrospect was very, very magical and synchronistic. I wrote down, solidify my faith in the universe. And magically, through all the different thoughts and focuses I had, from fears of death to fears of a scooter accident, to wanting to know that I create my own reality, to questions about whether or not my thoughts also influenced when it was time for me to die, and in the most beautiful and perfect way, each and every one of those questions I had was answered. From that point on, however, I did make an intention and put it out to the universe that I'd like to experience these magical synchronicities and manifestations in a pleasurable and joyful manner rather than a physically testing and painful way that I did that time in Greece. The answer to this question completely changed my life and the way I look at things. I know for certain that I create every bit of my reality, and whenever I have any type of feeling of fear and anxiety, I remind myself of this incident and what it taught me. I've gotten back on a scooter multiple times after this incident. I've flown on an even tinier plane with only one propeller in 2019 in Belize and had no fear whatsoever. Death is one of life's biggest, if not the biggest mystery. In my mind, if we create even death, we can create anything else. There's no question. Most people, if not everyone, has a fear of death. Most people, if not all, go about life thinking that death happens randomly. I used to think that death could happen any day, anytime, that I could just drive down the freeway and a semi-truck could come barreling into my car and that would be it. We have so many adages regarding death, with the most popular one being, life is short. Life is as short or long as you want it to be. Imagine having the ultimate say of how much time you want to spend here in this physical reality and being able to tell the universe when you're finished with all the experiences you wanted to experience and when you want to go. Each and every experience we have is for one purpose, and that's spiritual evolution. Mastery of this physical 3D realm is so we can go on to higher consciousness, 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D, etc. And in the past, our limited consciousness didn't allow for this transcendence of our physical bodies. When you come to the realization that nothing in life is by accident, including death, what is there to ever fear? Even death becomes something that can be truly seen as a transition, a graduation of sorts. Of course, this view of death only comes when we are fully awake and aware of ourselves as not being separate from the divine, but an extension of the Creator. Then we're able to recognize that everything is a dream of consciousness and that we have a say in it all. In the past, we had to die and reincarnate hundreds, if not thousands of times to figure this all out, but now we have the opportunity to figure it out in one lifetime, to experience it all in one lifetime, to realize who we truly are in one lifetime, this lifetime. So embrace this and know this and create all the joy, love, well-being, and abundance you deserve. I hope you enjoyed this video and it really helped expand the awareness of who you think you truly are, and you begin to approach life in a completely different way, trusting your own power to create. Please comment, like, and share this video if you feel it's empowered you in some way so that it can go on and empower someone else. And if you're not subscribed yet and would like to see more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button and tap on the notification bell so you can be notified of new videos coming out. Again, my name is Jason. As always, I thank you for watching, and remember that you are the change. I'll see you guys in the next video.